So the purpose of this short video is really to provide an insight for those people who currently are or would like to be in the water industry supply chain. And the reason why this is of particular interest at the moment, you may have noticed on the Water UK website, they've said that the water companies are currently proposing to spend £96 billion between 2025 and 2030, which is an 88% increase on the previous 5 years. And if approved by Ofwat, this will be the largest investment ever made by the water industry and by far the largest investment programme in Europe. Now, Water UK say that there are three key areas they're going to be investing in. One is reducing leaks. Two is reducing river pollution, things like phosphates in rivers, reducing storm overflows. And the third one is improving water supply resilience through new reservoirs and water supply schemes. Now, in this video, we want to drill down on one of those three areas, which is river pollution and storm overflows. So I'm delighted to have with me today Oliver Grievson, who many of you will know. Oliver is Associate Director at AtkinsRéalis and Royal Academy of Engineering Visiting Professor at Exeter University. He's founder of WIPAC, Water Industry Process Automation and Control, and most recently, the winner of the Institute of Measurement and Control Oxbow Awards for services to environmental monitoring. Congratulations and welcome, Oliver.
Thank you, Graham. It's lovely to be here.
So can we kick off by perhaps you set the scene by explaining what AMP8 is, what the projections are, and maybe some thoughts on why they're so large this time.
So, for those of you not involved in the water industry, the water industry basically works off 5-year asset cycles. AMP8 is that that 5-year asset cycle between 2025 and 2030. The industry is currently in AMP7, busy delivering a lot of great work, and the way the water industry works is we have a price review, which is going on at the minute, and then the bills are set. So the 96 billion is what the water companies have told the regulator. This is what the plan is to spend over the next AMP cycle. Yes, it's a massive increase. It's an 88% increase. But you may well have seen the storm overflows have been in the news. We've had a lot of climate change, a lot of droughts, a lot of resilience in the water sector. And certainly with the storm overflow plan, we've seen the government say allow a £56 billion investment over however many years. Part of that 96 billion is that first part of that investment going to happen. Mm-hmm. All of this, really, the storm overflow issue stems from the installation of event duration monitors, and the industry understanding that storm overflows are being used more often than they should be. Some of that is, yes, genuine storm overflows. Some of it may be data issues. So I think that's going to come to mind. The industry typically hasn't monitored the wastewater network, and we are now monitoring it in more and more detail. The EDM program came in the last AMP. The water companies have delivered that and are finishing delivering that right now. Originally, it was for the majority of overflows. It's now going to be for all of them, which is why it wasn't. The last bits are being finished off now, but also the industry's installing sewer level monitors to manage the problems with sewer abuse, and we've all seen the wet wipe issues and the national issue on banning plastic wet wipes, and we know that is a very big problem. If you look at the Water UK website, again, as you mentioned, £100 million a year is spent in unblocking sewers. A lot of that is from wet wipes, and I think we're all agreed that plastic wet wipes shouldn't be going down the drain. The water companies have had a lot of campaigns on the only things that you should flush is poo, pee and paper, the 3 Ps, and there's a good reason for that. The investment in the next AMP is, yes, it's part of that is to address the storm overflows issue. Part of that is to address water resilience. The industry hasn't built reservoirs for a good while, and they take long-term plans to build those. Part of it is greenhouse gas emissions. There's the race to net zero, the necessity to get to a position where we have an environmentally sustainable industry moving forward. Now, the industry does a lot, and the industry produces a lot of energy already. You may have seen the poo power, and yes, the industry's got military power stations. When you look at the big wastewater treatment works, they produce a lot of electricity, but there's more and more and more work to be done. So, funnily enough, I was at the Digital Water Summit this week, and one of the things they've looked at, when you create a reservoir that we're going to have in the next 10-15 years, actually there's a lot of greenhouse gases that come from the reservoirs, believe it or not. It was a new one on me. But all that's got to be taken into account. The industry's talked about net zero, operational net zero by 2030. There's the government target of being a net zero nation by 2050. That's all going to take investment to do. And that's why, yes, that 88% increase is absolutely vital for the water industry. And it's managing that investment, managing the getting to a point where, yes, we have a river water quality that is suitable for the environment.
So if Ofwat approve these very large spending plans, how do companies that perhaps haven't been in the supply chain but would like to be in there, how do you get involved in this?
Quite frankly, it's a massive program, and the industry is going to have a challenge to deliver it. The industry is going to be interested in something that's going to help to address the pain points. So the industry pain points, we've always heard, you've mentioned them earlier, leakage is always going to be a pain point in the water industry. Leakage is all about managing the leakage to low as practical. Net zero is always going to be a point that we're going to be working continuously on that, getting treatment works more and more efficient. Phosphorus is a big issue. Nutrients. Have you got a solution that can address those pain points that the industry suffers from? And if you've got a solution in there, then there are numerous routes to get involved. The United Utilities Innovation Lab that I think last week announced their next cohort of companies that are getting involved is a great way. And it's a brilliant program that helps companies that are not necessarily traditionally within the water industry, but want to get into the industry. Northumbrian Water Group have their Innovation Festival, wonderful event. There's the Innovate East Innovation Festival that are all open to companies to get involved, understand the problems that the water industry has, and say, I've got a solution. There's more and more. I was at the Digital Water Summit in Bilbao. There's more and more going on in digital water. So some of that investment that's going to be happening is on monitoring, which is my area of expertise. And there's a lot of monitoring going in. So all that monitoring is going to do is tell us where the problems are. It's going to give the industry that situational awareness of where we need to invest and understand exactly what's going on. The water industry is massive. There are hundreds of thousands of miles of sewers, hundreds of thousands of miles of distribution pipes for the potable water. That's massive. We need monitoring to understand exactly what's going on at any one time. The water distribution system is very well monitored, and but we still can do with more. How do you manage that to understand where all the leakage is happening? And digital water, which is another area of my expertise, is a very mature market looking at that, understanding where we can address things. What's next? So this week I've seen a lot of work around digital twins, certainly in the wastewater network, and that's happening, and there's some great innovation happening. And if you're a company that's got that unique selling point, and there have been, traditionally the industry's been very difficult to get involved with. If you've got that really unique point, that really unique solution to address, the industry is there and the industry will listen. But there's also the Ofwat Innovation Fund. The Ofwat Innovation Fund is designed for, yes, some very large innovation projects, but also some very small innovation projects where the smaller companies can get involved. And that may be just going to a water company saying, look, I've got this innovation. I've got this thing. Can I work with you? I forgot to mention the Anglian Water Innovation Network, the Anglian Water shop window project. And there's a lot of these projects going around, but also reach out to water industry, people within the water industry, and they'll normally tell you. There are plenty of conferences and exhibitions around. We've got WEM coming up next year, really exciting, free to attend. Come along and see what the water industry is all about.
So a lot of the, and certainly with the river water quality, a lot of the monitoring that's going to be taking place is being driven by Section 82 of the Environment Act 2021. So how do you see that rolling out? I mean, is it in terms of timing for a start?
There's a more than Section 82. So there's Section 81, which is the EDMs that have been installed. And that was sort of almost after the EDM program came in. It got brought into law with a Section 81. And there's Section 82. Now, for those of you who aren't au fait with the individual sections of individual laws, Section 82 is the upstream and downstream monitoring of storm overflows. Now, controversially, I'll say, being my personal opinion, controversially, it isn't quite right. I personally think it should be monitoring rivers. Yes, agreed, because of the current environment, there's the want to look at storm overflows, but we know that the water industry, yes, is responsible for part of the problem, but there are other industries involved as well. And actually, in terms of value of monitoring, we'd get a lot more if we monitored the rivers and brought all that data into as part of the National Digital Twin Program.
But wouldn't you say that the requirements of the Act are river monitoring, albeit upstream and downstream discharges? And although obviously that's designed to detect any changes in river quality that are caused by the discharges, at the same time, it's going to provide us with a level of insight into river water quality that we've never ever had before.
Yes, no, because upstream and downstream of the overflows isn't necessarily the right place. There should be freedom within that to say what's best for the river environment. And that way we could get a lot more value. One of the things I'm very passionate about is, if we're going to install instrumentation, let's get the value. A lot of money is going to be invested, and there have been figures anything up to sort of £7 billion to install all of this monitoring over the next 10 years. We need to get the best value. That's a lot of money to invest from a capital point of view, i.e. the initial installation, but a lot of money to invest every year in terms of ongoing maintenance and operation. So if you're not doing that ongoing maintenance operation, you're not going to get a decent data quality. If you're not getting a decent data quality, there's no use to the data.
I had conducted one of these interviews with Matt Lowenthal, who you probably know, used to work at the agency, and that one of the great things about Matt is he can look at a water quality graph in a river, and he can tell you exactly what's happened. You know, he'll say, oh, there's been an industrial spill, or he'll say that's leakage from a farm, or that, you know, that's long-term nutrient pollution from fertilizer. You know, he can just read graphs as if they were a book.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that, and tell me if I'm being unrealistic, I'm hoping that artificial intelligence will be able to recreate Matt's brain and look at graphs and tell us where the pollution, do source attribution, tell us where the pollution is coming from, perhaps tie it in with meteorology so you can look at rainfall and flow data and things like that. And through the use of AI, in my mind, unrealistic or not, I don't know, you should be able to determine whether or not the water quality has been affected by one of the major sources.
If you're sampling in the right place.
Indeed.
Any monitoring is all about sampling in the right place. I've just finished writing the British and Send standard for wastewater monitoring, ICA, and one of the very tenets I've put into that British and Send standard is make sure you're monitoring in a representative way. And this is the basic governance about any monitoring program. Matt Lowenthal's brilliant. He spent many years with the Environment Agency monitoring river water quality, but he knows exactly where to install those instruments. And that's one of the things that Matt and the agency and the water quality program the agency were brilliant at, because they monitored in exactly the right place for the environment.
But maybe that's not a precise science, because, you know,
no, it isn't. It isn't a precise science.
The best place to put a monitor, you know, when the river is high, is one place, but, you know, during a drought, it's going to be somewhere else, because you're not going to have the mixing effects.
Exactly, and it isn't a precise science, and you've got to look at where's best to do it. But you said earlier, Matt can look at those graphs, look at that data, and absolutely know what's happening. I'm pretty much the same with flow data, and I, to a certain extent, with quality data as well. If I look at wastewater treatment works, look at all the data, yes, we can all. It's a very specialist science, but you can see what's happening and you get that visualization. You can't necessarily replicate that with ML, machine learning, artificial intelligence to an extent. But again, like any of these, I mean, I'm an expert in digital water, like any of these things, you've got to have the data quality. I've quite often quoted going back to William Mellon in 1966 years ago, so 1957. William Mellon was coined garbage in, garbage out. Now, it wasn't about environmental data, but it applies more today than it ever did 66 years ago. And it was, we need to take that on board. So we've got to be, when we look at Section 82, we've got to be looking at that. We've got to be saying, where is the right place? How do we get that environmentally representative sample and enable us to look at all this data quality and get the value from it? To me, yes, that's putting it into sampling in the right place, putting that into a river water model, and producing a digital twin of the river base. It's something that the Spanish are doing via the PERTE program, and the Spanish government are investing £3 billion. It's a huge amount of money. They're looking at the entire water cycle, and it's revolutionary work. Now, any digital twin that you develop, it's not going to be perfect first time. And there's an iterative process of changing the models and changing the data quality. You mentioned earlier, yes, the conditions will be good for one point, but not necessarily the other. That's what you learn when you're putting river modeling and water quality data together, or like any digital twin. And so, yes, there's going to be a learning process. Yes, there's going to be an iterative process. But realistically, we can start that now. But if we get the right sort of testing, the right sort of data. And Section 82, brilliant, fantastic, but we've got to get it right. That's we're asking the public to pay a lot of money for this testing.
Mm.
And we've got to do the right thing for the customers,
Mm.
for the people, and we've got to do the right thing for the environment.
Mm. Mm.
And in order to do that, we've got to be careful. We can't say we've got to study this for the next 10 years and do nothing over that time. Yes, we've got to install, but we've got to do it in the right way.
Mm.
Yes, under Section 82, there are particular parameters. Some of those may be right, some of them may not be right.
Yeah. So just to summarise then, we've got the Environment Act driving all of this. We've got the water industry responding with very large investment programs. So the scene is already set for, from a supplier's point of view, a wonderful prospect. So how would you summarize your advice for businesses that want to get involved in this?
It's a case of understand what the water company's pain points are, understand where they're going to be developing and investing. It's quite simple. The business plans, the draft business plans have all been published. They're good reads, should we say. A lot of people have worked for a very long time to develop those business plans. They're being examined by the regulators, of course, at the minute. But understand where you can contribute to the water industry. Then, once you've got a good understanding where you can help, get involved, come to the events, speak to the companies, get involved in things like the United Utilities Innovation Programme, the Northumbrian Water Innovation Programme, and understand more in the more detail how you can help and speak to people.
Perfect. Oliver, it's been a pleasure and an education as always to speak with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Graham. Take care.